Rita's beauty studio was the most talked about makeup shop in the whole of Ogba. Everyone who entered came out looking flawless, like they had been touched by angels. But that was not the strange part. The real mystery was how fast she walked. No matter how detailed the makeup was, full glam, bridal look, even fixing nails and eyelashes, she would finish in record time. What normally took other makeup artists hours, Rita would complete in less than 30 minutes. Nobody understood how she did it. But the real question was this: why did every single customer fall into a deep sleep the moment she touched their face? At first, people thought it was just relaxation. After all, getting pampered could make someone sleepy. But this was different. Even customers who swore they would stay awake always ended up drifting off the moment Rita started walking. No matter how hard they tried, their eyes would close. And when they woke up, their faces were transformed: flawless makeup, perfectly fixed nails, eyelashes sitting like they were done by magic. "Rita, how do you walk so fast?" one customer asked one day. Rita only smiled. "It's just talent." But it was a lie. Because in reality, she was not the one doing the work. Rita had not always been like this. Just a year ago, she was an ordinary makeup artist, struggling to get customers. There were too many competitors in the area, and no matter how good she was, people always preferred bigger, more popular studios. Frustrated and desperate, she had gone to see a woman known as Mama Onom, a mysterious old lady who lived in a small room behind the market. People said she had charms that could make any business successful. "I just want more customers," Rita had told her. Mama Onom had smiled. "Customers you will get. But everything comes at a price." Rita had agreed without thinking twice. That night, she was given a small, black calabash filled with white powder. "Before you start your work each morning, rub a little of this on your hands," Mama Onom had instructed. "Your customers will come, and your hands will be faster than ever. But remember one thing: you must drop a single eyelash into the calabash every month. If you forget, the spirits will take their own payment." Rita had followed the instructions. The very next day, customers started coming. And then, something strange happened. The moment she touched her first customer's face, the woman's eyes shut instantly, and she fell into a deep sleep. Rita had panicked, but she continued walking, and to her shock, her hands moved unnaturally fast. It wasn't her. It was the spirits, walking through her. In just a few minutes, the customer's face was done, her nails were fixed, and her lashes sat perfectly. When the woman woke up, she gasped in amazement. "This is the best makeup I've ever seen." From that day, Rita's name spread like wildfire. She became the most sought-after makeup artist in town. Women traveled from far places just to get their makeup done by her. They didn't care that they always fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. All they cared about was the result. But as Rita's success grew, the other makeup artists in Ogba began to notice something strange. How could she be that fast? Why did everyone fall asleep in her shop? Something was not normal. Rita's beauty studio was now the most famous in Ogba. Her customers swore by her skills, claiming they had never seen makeup so perfect. But the other makeup artists in town were growing restless. "She is not normal," one of them whispered during a secret meeting. "How can she do a full face, fix nails, and attach lashes in less than 30 minutes, another asked. "And why does everyone sleep once she touches them?" The makeup artist knew something was wrong, but they had no proof. They needed to investigate. They decided to send one of their own to get her makeup done while trying to stay awake. A young makeup artist named Sod volunteered. She was confident that no matter what happened, she would not sleep. The next morning, Sod entered Rita's studio with a bright smile. "Good morning, Rita. I need a full glam look for an event." Rita smiled back. "No problem. Sit down." Sod sat and watched as Rita rubbed something on her hands. The moment Rita touched her face, a strange warmth spread through her body. Her eyelids grew heavy. She fought it. She pinched herself, bit her tongue, and tried to recite numbers in her head. But it was no use. Within seconds, she was fast asleep. When she woke up, her makeup was flawless. Her nails were shaped to perfection, and her lashes looked like they had been done by angels. Sod ran back to the other makeup artist, shaking her head. "I tried. I really tried to stay awake, but the moment she touched me, I was gone." Now, the makeup artists were even more suspicious. Since the first test failed, they decided to try something else. This time, they sent someone with a hidden camera. A woman named Ronk was chosen. She entered Rita's shop pretending to be a regular customer, but she had a small camera hidden in her bag, placed in a position to capture everything. Rita greeted her warmly and began walking. As expected, Ronk fell asleep immediately. When she woke up, her face was perfect. Later that night, the makeup artist gathered to review the footage. But what they saw made their blood run cold. The video did not show Rita walking at normal speed. Instead, it looked like the footage had been fast-forwarded, skipping large chunks of time. It made no sense. How was she walking so fast that even the camera couldn't capture it properly? They rewound the video and played it again, but the result was the same. Something unnatural was happening in Rita's shop. But since they had no evidence of anything demonic, they had no choice but to leave her alone and focus on their own businesses. For months, everything went smoothly. Rita became richer. Her shop became the most expensive in town. Customers came from as far as Suralere and Ikeja. She never failed to drop the required eyelash into the calabash every month, just as Mama Onom had instructed. But then, one month, Rita forgot. She had been so busy celebrating her success that she forgot to perform the ritual. That night, Rita had a strange dream. She was in her studio, but everything was dark. The only thing she could hear was the sound of makeup brushes moving. Then she heard a whisper. "You did not pay us." Rita woke up sweating. She rushed to find the calabash, but it was gone. The spirits had already taken their payment. That was when strange things started happening. The first sign of trouble came when a young woman named Tommy came for a makeover. As usual, Rita touched her face, and she fell asleep. The spirits took over, applying the makeup, fixing the nails, and attaching the lashes. But when the work was done, Tommy did not wake up. Rita panicked. She shook her, slapped her face lightly, even poured water on her. Nothing. Fear gripped her heart. She nearly wet herself. Had the spirits taken her soul? For 2 hours, Rita sat beside Tommy, shaking with fear. Then, suddenly, Tommy's body jerked, and she sat up. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Where was I?" she whispered. Rita forced a smile. "You were just sleeping." But Tommy shook her head. "No. I was in a dark place. I heard voices calling my name and pulling at my face." She jumped up suddenly and ran out of the shop without paying. Rita was terrified. She told herself it was just a mistake. Maybe Tommy was just exhausted. But deep down, she knew something was very wrong. And worse. The spirits were not done with her yet. Rita sat on the cold tile floor of her shop, her breathing ragged. Her hands trembled as she held them up, staring at her fingers, waiting for something to happen. She could still hear the voice from her dream, that chilling whisper that sent a wave of terror through her bones. "You took our gift for granted, now we will take everything in return." She didn't know what to do. She wanted to believe it was just a nightmare, just her mind playing tricks on her, but deep down, she knew the spirits were angry. And when spirits get angry, they do not warn twice. Morning came, and Rita tried to act normal, but she couldn't shake off the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. She forced a smile when her first customer of the day walked in. "Good morning, Auntie," a cheerful girl named Tochi greeted. "Please, I want full glam makeup and long lashes for my photo shoot." Rita swallowed the lump in her throat and nodded. "Sit down." Her hands were still shaking as she picked up her brush, but as soon as she touched Tochi's face, a strange thing happened. Her hands stopped shaking. The same smoothness, the same effortless movement returned, as if the spirits were still guiding her. But Rita was too scared to feel relieved. The makeup was done in 15 minutes, flawless as usual. Tochi looked in the mirror and gasped. "Wow! Auntie Rita, you are a magician. This is perfect." Rita forced a smile. "Thank you, my dear." As Tochi left, Rita felt a sudden wave of dizziness wash over her. Her vision blurred, and for a moment, she felt like she was falling. She gripped the table for support, gasping. When she looked up, she saw something that made her blood turn cold. The mirror. Her reflection. It wasn't moving. Rita blinked, but the image in the mirror stayed frozen, staring back at her with lifeless eyes. Then, slowly, her reflection smiled, a wide, eerie grin that stretched far beyond what was humanly possible. A cold shiver ran down her spine. She stumbled back, knocking over a bottle of foundation. The sound brought her back to reality, and when she looked again, the reflection was normal. She stood there, panting. "Maybe I'm just tired," she thought. But deep down, she knew it was a warning. Days passed, and Rita tried to push the fear aside. Business was still booming, and she made sure to always drop the offering of nail clippings, eyelash strands, and makeup brush bristles into the calabash. But one evening, she made a terrible mistake. It had been a long day, and she was exhausted. She had attended to more customers than usual, her body aching from standing all day. By the time she closed the shop, she was too tired to do anything else. She forgot to drop the offering. That night, she had the worst dream of her life. She was in her shop, but everything was pitch dark. The only sound was the soft strokes of a makeup brush against the skin, swish, swish, swish. The sound was everywhere, as if invisible hands were walking in the darkness. Then she felt it. Fingers. Cold, unseen fingers brushing against her face. She tried to move, but she was paralyzed. Then a voice whispered in her ear. "You forgot to pay us." Rita gasped and woke up, drenched in sweat. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it would burst out of her chest. She jumped out of bed, grabbed a torchlight, and ran to the calabash. Her hands were shaking as she lifted the cover. It was gone. The calabash was empty. The spirits had already taken what they wanted. Deep in the world beyond human sight, the spirits had been weaving something in the shadows. Each nail, each eyelash, each tiny part of Rita's customers had been used to create something unholy. A body. A new form. Something that was neither human nor spirit, something that should not exist. Each time a customer left Rita's shop, they unknowingly left behind a part of themselves. The spirits took those parts and used them to shape a being, a creature stitched together from stolen beauty. But it was not perfect yet. It was incomplete. It needed more. The next morning, Rita walked into her shop feeling like a walking corpse. She hadn't slept a wink after the nightmare, and now, a terrible headache pounded in her skull. She was still in a daze when a customer walked in, a young woman named Aisha. "Auntie Rita, I have an important date tonight. I need my full face beat and my lashes looking sharp," she said with a playful laugh. Rita forced a smile and gestured for her to sit. But deep down, she was nervous. She picked up her brush and started walking. As usual, Aisha fell asleep within seconds. Rita didn't question it anymore. She had accepted that this was part of the process. But today, something was different. As she applied foundation, the brush in her hand suddenly jerked, as if someone had snatched it from her. Rita froze. She looked down at her hand, her fingers gripping the brush tightly. But her hand was no longer moving on its own. It was moving by itself. The brush glided across Aisha's face, blending the foundation with impossible speed. Rita wasn't doing anything, her hands were just there. Her heart pounded. She wanted to stop, but she couldn't. Then Aisha's eyes flew open. Rita gasped. Her pupils were completely white. No iris. No color. Just white. Then her lips moved. "You did not pay us." Rita stumbled back in horror, knocking over her makeup kit. The brushes and powders scattered across the floor, but she didn't care. Aisha stood up slowly. Her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her white eyes staring directly into Rita's soul. "You think beauty comes without a price," the voice said, not Aisha's voice, but something older, darker. Rita opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The lights in the shop flickered violently. Then, as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. Aisha blinked, her eyes returning to normal. She looked around, confused. "Auntie Rita. What happened?" Rita could barely speak. "Why you fainted?" she stammered. Aisha frowned. "Really? That's strange. Anyway, how's my makeup?" Rita forced a shaky smile. "It's done." Aisha checked the mirror and grinned. "Wow. This is perfect. Thank you, Auntie Rita. She paid and left happily. Rita collapsed into her chair, her body shaking. She knew this was just the beginning. Rita tried to perform the ritual again, hoping the spirits would forgive her mistake. But it was too late. That night, she felt a strange sensation in her fingers. A tingling, like tiny needles prickling her skin. She looked at her hands and gasped. Her fingers were shrinking. Before her eyes, her hands began to shrivel, the skin turning black, her fingers decaying as if they had been rotting for years. She let out a blood-curdling scream. Then, she heard the voice. Your hands, you no longer need them. The pain was unbearable. She collapsed to the floor, her vision fading. By morning, Rita was gone. Her shop remained locked, and people started spreading rumors. Some said they saw her running through the streets barefoot, screaming. Others swore they saw shadowy figures moving inside her shop at night. One woman claimed that as she passed by Rita's shop late at night, she heard the sound of makeup brushes moving on their own, blending and stroking as if an invisible force was still at work. The market women whispered among themselves, shaking their heads. Rita had taken a shortcut to success. But in the end, the spirits took what was theirs. And now, her shop stood as a silent warning to those who wanted beauty without a price. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts with me in the comment section. Don't forget to give the story a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do so now. Until I bring another story your way,